Hello and welcome to Shepparton, Greater Shepparton. It is indeed for this FIVB World Tour event. It's men's beach volleyball coming to you live from Shepparton, Victoria. Of course, a place that's, well, it's normally synonymous with great food, wine, waterways and weather, and this picturesque location. Look at that, absolutely beautiful scenes, and while it's synonymous to that, it's certainly also synonymous with beach volleyball. And let's have a look at this men's semi-final. And as I do that, I'd like to bring in Kerry Pottast as well. Kerry, exciting to be here, and what a matchup this is.
This is going to be a great matchup. Thank you, Steve. The Aussies, Cole Durant, Zach Schubert, up against the Americans, James Avery Dross and Chase Frischman.
And it was Frischman who got the serve away for the Americans first up. And it is a little bit of discussion out there too. Not too pleased with what happened in the opening point already. So, some drama.
Well, I think this is a big match for both of these teams. It'll be their first times in a gold medal match. They can win this semi-final. So, I know the Australian boys are fired up. I'm sure the Americans are fired up.
And they take that point and they level it up. So early stages, of course, but Cole Durant and Zach Schubert have been in some outstanding form in recent times. And not only that, their attitude, I spoke to them yesterday, and they've got their eyes on taking this and standing on, not only this match, but standing on top of the podium. And I know you're a big believer in not getting too far ahead of yourselves, but...
Oh, no, who said that?
they believe they can do it.
It's all about passion and having that vision. Nice drive there by the Americans to take their second point. But look, I've been so impressed with the Australian boys. They've really been fantastic. They have played their best volleyball this weekend, which is the time to do it, right? You know, you practice all week, every single day, day in, day out. And it's the big games that you want to play your best volleyball. It's the big events, and that's what the Aussies have done. What a swing from Cole Durant, but beautifully taken by the Americans and just unable to capitalise on that. So the Aussies coming out with big aggressive hits to start with, and that is most definitely their game.
So here we are in Shepparton. It is the second semi-final of the day. We've had the women's already first up this morning, and that was a win to the USA there. Plenty of representation from the Americans right across these finals, and they'll be fancying their chances here in this match against the Australians. But the Aussie boys will certainly have something to say about that. Cole Durant and Zach Schubert, as we take a look at the replay on that last point.
Dross has a little look. He goes for the shot. The Aussies are there on it, but it just goes out. So a little break for the Australians. Cole Durant with the serve. Deep to Drost. Bit of a joust on the net. Zach Schubert too big.
Australians now in control of the point. Plenty of desperation from both sides at the net. There it is again. And unable to keep it in. No, it's a call.
Yeah, there's a net touch there from Zach Schubert. Zach Schubert. He went up to fake the hit, but just fell forward into the net. So a little bit of scrappy play there from the Aussies. This one here, the jump set there from Durant goes over the net. Schubert kind of comes in and just clips the net. So I think that both teams, or the Aussies for sure, a little bit nervous. Nice block there from Dross. So I think the Aussies, they're not looking like they did at the end of yesterday afternoon, but it's still 3 points apiece, or just four for the US right now on the change of sides. But I think it's just a little bit of nerves. They'll settle in, and then this game will be neck and neck, I'm quite sure.
Well, the boys admitted it was a nervous three-setter they played in yesterday too, and being a single elimination match, they felt that pressure. They admitted that, they felt their nerves, and they also said that it might not have been their absolute best beach volleyball, but just the fact they got away with the win gave them plenty of confidence.
Yeah, wins always give you confidence, but when you fight for it, like they did yesterday afternoon in the quarterfinal, great serve from Schubert there. Really putting the Americans in trouble again, and that one flying out. So well-deserved risk on the serve, and that's what the Aussies, that's what these two boys can do really well. They can dial up the serves if they want to. They can do a flat float if they need to, just take some time and make sure of it, but they can really rip their jump serves, putting a lot of pressure on the other team. And that time, Dross putting a lot of pressure. So the Aussies serving a lot of balls to the taller of the two Americans. Looking perhaps for a block.
Well, these Americans, they certainly have come here to win as well. They had to qualify to get through as well to the main draw, and they've been together for about 6 months, the boys from California. travelled out here to Australia with a lot of talk around them as well. They've been doing some pretty impressive performances overseas on the AVP Tour, and here they are in Australia to try and make a name for themselves here.
Yeah, look, these events give them a lot of opportunity to make points for the World Tour. There are a lot more There's a lot of depth in America. This team would probably be in the 5th, 6th position, something like that, in the depth of the Americans. There's a few really strong teams that haven't come out to this event. But they're really fighting with our Aussies right now.
A little bit of chatter between the two Australian boys about what they might be able to do here. They know they've got a real match on their hands. They can tell that early. And there goes Schubert. Big power play, but the Americans, they answer the challenge.
That's that nervous Aussie thing right there. The free ball, the overpass, gives it back to the Americans for a chance. Durant at the net, patrolling the net. This time Schubert with a chance.
Oh, the Americans find some space at the back there too. A little bit of cat and mouse from both sides, and the cheeky Americans get away with it this time.
So both teams going over on the second there and then over on the first. So great vision by Frischmann. Great little defensive player. I say little, he's still over 6 foot tall, but smaller than his partner. And that time the Aussies sending the ball out. So the side switch sees the Americans up a couple of points. The Aussies really need to settle in here, just slow it down, breathe a little bit. To me, it feels like they're rushing each point right now, and that's very, very normal for perhaps a younger, inexperienced team. It's a big event for them. It's a world tour. They're in the semi-final.
Well, one thing's for sure, they pride themselves on their fighting spirit. They are playing a little bit nervously, as you said, to start off with. Hopefully those nerves will settle for the Aussie boys, and they will continue to fight all the way no matter what. Now, they worked it around. They didn't quite come off the way they wanted that one.
No, again, just a little bit too rushed. So at this point, I would say the Aussies just need to simplify their game until they get that feeling back, the confidence back, then they can start pushing the ball around. But that is their game. It is pushing the ball around. It is playing differently.
There's Durant. He finds some space, gets a touch. It doesn't quite go his way, though, and it is the Americans who get another point. I don't know how much Kerry they would have seen of each other, these two teams. I guess they do their homework to a certain degree. These American boys haven't been out here before. But I'm not too sure as to how much they might have met each other.
Well, they have cameras on every single game. Sometimes we see at World Tour events, 15 cameras at the back of the court. So both teams, and I know our Australian contingent, they have film on every single team on the World Tour. They've got their cameras at the back now. They have a massive statistics package which breaks down all the bits and pieces. And the Americans were there. I think they're here on their own. I saw the American women's team serving them some balls in the warm-up. So they'll be doing it a bit tougher. They'll be having to sit around and watch. But I'm absolutely sure they would have watched Schubert and Durant in the lead-up to this game to work out how to play against them.
Well, what we're seeing so far, it is a very good matchup. Two similarly sized and skilled teams, and unfortunately for the Australians, they're just getting behind the Americans, pumping themselves up. They're pretty happy with how they're going right now.
Yeah, look, it's, sometimes when you're the not the home team, there's less pressure on you. I know that there's a big Australian contingent of all the players and the staff watching these boys, really hoping they can make it through to the final. And we're hoping for a double Aussie gold medal match like we had last year. But they've got a bit of work to do as they sit down for a timeout. Americans just looking pretty calm. They're working very hard. They're very consistent. I'm loving Frischmann in the backcourt, touching as many balls as he can. The Aussies needing to just regroup. Of course, we're playing to best of 3 sets, so if the Aussies don't take this one, if they do fall behind and can't quite get back into this game, in this set, they've got another set to go and they can even it up like they did last night. And we won the 3rd set to make it through to this semi-final. So they know what winning 3 sets is like, but We're not over in the first yet. We're not writing them off just yet.
As they make their way back out onto centre court here at Shepparton, right here in this beautiful precinct of the Victoria Park Lake. Settled right on the lake there, and one of our boys yesterday, a ball went into that lake and he had to go down there and chase it. Big Steve McDonald is no doubt tuning into the commentary. Perhaps didn't also read the sign. It did say no swimming, Kerry. But what he does for the sport of volleyball, we'll give him a big cheerio and say congratulations.
Yeah, great swimming, ball collecting. And that last point for the Australians, Steve, that's what I want to see. Just see them collect themselves, play a normal up and down game, and then get back into their flair, what they're known for.
Oh, nice serve. That just dropped on him beautifully. Cole Duran come up with a cracker there.
Yeah, that was a really well-placed serve, that one right through the middle. So the players sit down now. Looks like they're having another timeout, but in fact this is the technical timeout. So when the points equal 21, the first 21 points in each set, the players will sit down for the technical timeout.
Well, just on that, Kerry, interesting too, people probably tuning in, many for the first time. There are, as you mentioned, technical timeouts, and I guess the players can call a timeout. What is the difference?
Well, the players can call the timeout at any time, so it can be after the first point of the match if they want to. There's also medical timeouts, so the players get, both teams get one timeout each set, and then there's the technical in what's normally the middle of the set, and then there's a medical timeout if there is an injury. So not a lot of timeouts, but the players will choose carefully when they have their own timeout, and it's often when there's been a run of points. So the Aussies did that just earlier before this technical because the Americans had a bit of a run and they felt their nerves. I'm sure they felt their nerves and they wanted to slow that down, so it was a really well called timeout. And they're only a couple of points behind now, so a few little good plays here from the Australians and could put the pressure back on the Americans. So going through the middle, there's the pressure right there. So another great serve. So now they're targeting, looks like the middle of the court.
They might have just summed it up a little bit early on, having a look where perhaps the opportunities are for the Australians. Both back there on the baseline. Cole Durant, that's an interesting serving style he's got there. Just a little bit of a jump, nothing too significant on that serve, and now they position themselves to try and take advantage of this point, and it is Zach Schubert who absolutely nails it home.
What a great swing from Zach. Really nice defence. The set was what I would have thought a little bit off the net for him. Well read there, a little bit off the net. The Americans decided to pull off, but Zach Schubert jumps so high. He hits at his full height with such power. Really hard to stop when he's on fire.
They really look like they've settled into something here now. I've just given the commentator's curse, but it did look as though the Australians were really being more confident and very direct in what they were trying to do.
Yeah, look, you won't let a good team get 2 or 3 or 4 points in a row very often. So the Americans dropped 2 points. It gave the Aussies a much better opportunity now in this first set. So the Aussies need to hold on to this now with some good plays. There's one. Just keep those good plays happening. The Americans are now under pressure to hold their lead, and they may make a few mistakes. So it's a bit of a cat and mouse game with momentum. You know, some people, you know, say, what is momentum? How do I get momentum? Well, in my mind, it's a real mental thing. It's about staying focused and making the right choices and being aggressive, risking.
Right now, it appears to be with the Australians, and they are just dominating this point too. The Americans work it around. What can they do here? They try to go for the cute play, but it doesn't come off.
Yeah, tough little play there. A few really interesting touches on the ball, scrambling all over the place. But now the Aussies, they even it out. So a minute ago, I was talking about them having to win the second set. Now they're back in this first set. Great to see, and they've really settled in. And so this is now equal volleyball, I would say. They've settled in. The Americans have had their run. And from now on, it's going to be who can focus through to the end of this first set.
So that big jump serve from Schubert now at the back there. And it is, looks like it got a touch, did it? What's the ruling?
I think I heard Drost asking for a foot fault on the serve, maybe watching the serve after this hit. It was most definitely in. That wasn't the problem. I think he was saying, getting the linesman to watch Schubert on the serve. So as the players serve, they're not allowed to step on or underneath as they take off if they're jumping that line at the back, so they have to stay behind it.
And can an opposition player call that?
No, absolutely not. It has to be called by the linesman, but the opposition players can actually suggest that they watch it.
Keep an eye on it. as players like to do.
Well, maybe they're not really supposed to, but they do anyway.
Help the referees make some calls. And, of course, our referees, Kevin Lenton today and Bert Lukic, they're the two officials in this particular match. It's a semi-final showdown, Australia versus the USA. It is all locked up in what was a pretty handy start for the USA early and a nervous start for the Australians. They seem to have settled, and we've got a real match on our hands in this semi-final. The first semi-final of the men's, to see who it is that will be the first men's team through to the gold medal match this afternoon.
Exciting for both of these teams. Making your first semi-final and then hopefully or possibly your first gold medal match. Win this game and you're short of a medal on the FIVB World Tour, and there's not many teams in the world who've got medals on the FIVB World Tour. A lot more events these days than there were when I was playing. Players have to be so physically fit to be able to last the tour, stay uninjured. They really got to look after themselves.
Yes, nice play down the line. That was indeed. And the USA, they just keep that point ahead, 16-15. And you mentioned, Kerry, in the years since you've retired, just how much this World Tour has grown, beach volleyball around the world. And I know that on this particular event, the Oceania region have really stood up. Countries like Vanuatu and Fiji have come to the fore in this tournament.
It's great to see countries from as far as, Italy and the United States and Canada, and then close by Fiji, Japan, and of course Vanuatu, all doing really well in the tournament as well.
And while Australia certainly supports those countries, and Volleyball Australia does plenty of work in the Pacific region, perhaps they might just want to ease back on that a bit, because they did a bit of damage to our teams in this particular tournament, but I think we're all happy to see that.
I think we're happy to see that. We really help out our Oceania teammates. It's good when the other... I really always love it when the opposition play their best, because that just brings out the best in you. So right now... Oh, that's an uncharacteristic error from the US. Gives Australia another point and evens up the score. So very interesting.
And for the first time, I think I saw a bit of a fist pump there from the Aussies as well. So they're just starting to feel like they might be able to nudge ahead here. For the first time, I think, in fact, in this set. I don't know if they've been in front.
Nice answer there from the US. Chase Frischman making sure, driving that one to the line on the side switch. And we switch every 7 points. Of course, we're only going to 21 in this set to win by 2. Yesterday we had a game that went 37-35. That would have been an extremely stressful match for those 4 players.
Netherlands and New Zealand, what a second set that was. In probably the hottest part of the day.
Yep. That was a great hit by Cole Durant there under pressure. Really good pass from his partner over wide. Pass there on purpose so they can have a swing. The Americans just not knowing what to do. So that's trademark our young boys, but that's not going to help.
Trying their best. They're working hard, both sides, but the boys in green, the Australians, Zach Schubert in front of the screen there, and Cole Durant just not quite able to get in front at the moment in this first set of the semi-final against the USA.
And that's that 3-touch we talked about earlier in the previous semi-final. Didn't work for the Americans, worked for the Australians. They're still in this set. Nice back up there. Off the block, 1, 2, 3. But the Aussies get an opportunity, the big jump set, and no one home. So the Aussies really getting their straps on now. So this time the Americans calling a timeout.
Well, it might give us an opportunity to just talk about that block touch rule. It's one that's being trialled by the FIVB, and I think we're getting close to the end of that trial. Certainly controversial, and none of their players don't seem to like it. Kerry, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, I think it's interesting. It's very different for beach volleyball. I think the players have really they have to think when the ball hits the block. What can I do? Oh, that's right, I've got another touch, and so it's a completely different play, that first touch off the block. But I think it's going to lessen the rallies rather than lengthen the rallies. I like I like to watch the longer rallies, but as a player, I like to play the shorter rallies. So I think there's a mixed opinion.
Yeah, the player's experience is that it does shorten the rallies. It appears to kill the rallies pretty quickly. Just to explain it to people, and Kerry, you're probably the best person to explain it, but it's an indoor rule that they are attempting to have a look at on the beach game. And maybe you can just explain to our viewers what the current rule is.
Well, previously you're only allowed to have 3 touches regardless of whether it hits the block. So if it hits the block, then there's 2 more has to go over. Now there's 3 after the hit, so it's just an extra touch. But it's locked up right here. This is a really... Oh, that was a big serve for Cole Durant. Missed it, so giving set point now to the US on an error. He needs to keep his cool here.
Just came out of that little break, that timeout, with just had too much adrenaline, perhaps. And now they'll try and dig themselves out of it. Did they go too long? What's the call? They did, and that is the first set to the USA. 21-19, an interesting first set, but certainly the Americans did enough to deserve that win in the opening set, Kerry.
Yeah, the Americans came out very solid, very consistent. They got a good lead off the errors and the nerves from the Aussies. And then when the Aussies came back, the Americans just held on to that lead. So kudos to them. And that's, a lot of that is experience too. These guys they play on the AVP, they have a strong national tour in the United States. They've played a lot of volleyball, they would have played in colleges, indoor volleyball as well. And the Aussies would be very disappointed. 2 errors to finish that off. So they played a great middle part of the set. They need to come out in this second set and just get their consistency up first and take it to 3 sets, we hope.
Well, they're real fighters, as I've mentioned a couple of times in this commentary. They'll head out onto that court a little bit disappointed. They're no doubt going to be feeling just a little bit flat about what just happened there. They put themselves in a position, particularly after that last time out, to come out and maybe serve for the set, but they let an opportunity slip, and that's going to be hard. You've got to put that out of their mind now.
Yep, it's very much a game like tennis. We've just seen the Australian Open down under, and these players have to have a similar mentality. They play a point, they have to forget about it, play the next point.
So a couple of good points to open up this set will be very handy for them, and they've got the little fist pump there. They know that. That's the quickest way to put just what happened in the last set out of their mind.
And that was trademark Cole and Zach right there. Beautiful pass, nice jump set, out wide, easy play, had the whole court open.
And there he goes, big Zach Schubert, popular man on the World Tour. His partner Cole Durant, they work together nicely, but the Americans also perform very well together. First time I've seen them play, certainly the first time they've been here in Australia, and they are very impressive.
Absolutely, very consistent. It's great to have them here as well. It's always great to see the big nations. When I say the big nations, US and Brazil, 2 of the biggest nations in our sport. A lot of depth, lots of players. A lot of experience, and Dross there at the net. Experienced blocker. Not one of the biggest on the World Tour, certainly very tall, tallest, or one of the tallest out there today, but just good hands, good vision, and reaches over the net on the block.
So sets for Schubert, and Schubert bangs it down and makes a statement with that play. He was disappointed with the play before, and both of those boys worked well together on that play.
Yeah, Zach Schubert's really come a long way. 12 months ago, very up and down player, much less consistent, but we saw his potential, or we, the Australian coaches, knew he had an amazing potential, and he's just really maturing into a top-class player, and he's still young. And he jumps. Boy, can he jump. White men can jump.
They can indeed, particularly here in Shepparton, where I can tell you a bit later on they'll be jumping as that sand on set, a court, heats up. Seeing a little bit of breeze on those flags, you can see them by the court. That's good news for the players. They'll enjoy seeing that just to calm things down a little bit. But in terms of the serving and the balls floating around, how much impact does that have on the players, a strong breeze, Kerry?
Well, there's a little bit of stand and tent coverage around the court, so they don't get the full breeze. You can see the flags a little bit higher. They won't be feeling all of that. They'll be feeling a little bit of that. Sometimes There's corners in the court where the breeze comes through. You can serve into those little areas and you can take advantage of the breeze. There's definitely a good end and a bad end when you're serving into the wind. We call that the good end. When you're serving with the wind coming at your back, that is what we call the bad end, simply because anything that's driven harder may go out if the wind's coming behind you and helping push it out. When you're serving or spiking into the wind, you can put a lot of power, a lot of top spin, and it really drives it down into the sand. So, but at these conditions, there's no real big advantage, and these teams are experienced enough to just play both sides equally well.
Americans in a comfortable spot there too. They've got the breeze behind them, as you can see from those flags. And well, they didn't use the breeze on that occasion, but we saw that previous shot from the Australians go floating pretty high up into the air, and it held up there as well. So there's some opportunities up there.
Absolutely, and the Australians really having to struggle on that point, but leaving a big line open. So getting another chance. Zach Schubert here gives them a free hit. Hold your hand at the net. Oh, just unable to get that one. So the Americans just really playing the ball around so nicely, seeing the court so well, using a combination of finesse, power. That was Zach Schubert there, missing that little drop shot. So the Aussies again deciding to take an early timeout. Good call, because the Americans again seem to have grasped that momentum. They've made 3 or 4 points in a row. Aussies now need to regroup. It's a battle from here, Steve. It's going to be a big battle, because the Americans, they don't look like they're going to give up a point.
Well, it looks a very similar story so far to the first set. The Americans just getting a few points ahead. The Australians trying to stay with them, and at the moment they're not able to do that. They're just not quite finding their marks, and they're doing it 1 point, but they're not able to back that up with consecutive points. The Americans, on the other hand, are able to do that. And let's take a look at that last point. We see it set there for Zach Schubert. The Americans, though, they get themselves into position quite quickly. A little joust at the net, but the Americans just, that is nice work from Chase Frischman. He's got it all. In fact, both of these players have all of the shots in the bag that they need. And I would imagine that the Australians will be just trying to figure out in their heads what they can do to get a bit of a roll on. It's all very well to win the odd point, but you've got to get that word, and we talk about it, Kerry, a couple of times, that word momentum, and that means a bit of consistency, doesn't it?
It certainly does. Focus, bit of aggression. Bit of aggression there.
Sand here as well, quarried sand that's brought in especially for this. It's not exactly the same as you get down on your beautiful Manly beach there, so it churns up a little bit and gets a little dusty sometimes if it's dry.
It does, and we're watering the sand down after each game just to make sure it stays down, because like you said yesterday afternoon, by the time that the sun was really beating down on this sand, it dried it out very quickly, and it's starting to dust around a little bit. But that's okay. We play all around the world in different conditions.
All conditions.
Some sand is red, some sand is beautifully white, some is coarse, some is very fine and hard to jump out of, some is very deep, it feels like quicksand, and very coarse where you can actually go down on the ground and scratch up your knees and your elbows. But you know, that's our sport. Well,
we've all heard about the controversy for the Commonwealth Games as well, with the sand being trucked in. God forbid they bring sand into Coolangatta. That's the most beautiful sand in the world, and yet for the organising authorities that it's not quite good enough, Kerry.
I think it was just maybe not quite enough rather than good enough.
Yes.
I think it was just too perfect, and they needed to make it a little imperfect to make it a bit more like normal. You know, we've just got such beautiful beaches here.
But wouldn't you know it, the media just love a headline, and that headline was that the Coolangatta sand's not good enough, and of course it is. It's just it's too good, and it's going to be just on the Commonwealth Games for a moment, Kerry. It's going to be a wonderful, wonderful event, isn't it? I can already picture it in your head, those iconic scenes of the Gold Coast coastline and the great bodies of beach volleyballers all around the world coming there and battling it out for Commonwealth Games. It's pretty exciting.
It's very exciting, and we have such an incredible medal opportunity, both the men and women. course, our #1 women's team, Taliqua Clancy, Maria Faye Artaccio del Solar. They weren't here this weekend. Taliqua is still suffering an injury, so she wants to be right for the Commonwealth Games. They decided not to play this event.
Well, it is very interesting to see how that pans out. 3 Commonwealth Games selection events. 2 have already been played. Taliqua Clancy, unfortunately, wasn't able to play in either. There's 1 to go, the WA Open. I'm not sure what the selectors are going to do if she wasn't able to play in that. It's all up in the air, but we certainly hope that those 2 can get on the court and be at their best, because before that, they were unbeatable.
Yeah, they certainly were. They were winning everything that they were, that was thrown at them, really with a Midas touch as soon as they got together, turning it into gold. So, we hope that they'll be fine, and even if Taliqua has to wear a shoe because her injury has been a foot injury, as we know, so she'll be fine. She's training. They just didn't want to risk furthering that, because right now the Commonwealth Games is their big event.
And I understand the injury initially was one at training down at their South Australian base there at Sassy, where well, they don't wear shoes or any protective, as you can see, on their feet, and it was just at the net training against a fellow Aussie player, and just stood on the toe. And
those things happen. Yeah, we had another Aussie boy yesterday. He was taken out underneath the net by one of the opposition, and hopefully hasn't injured his knee too badly, but his knee did blow up a little bit. So, those things happen, not as much as football. But right now, the Americans really taking control, and again, another big block. So the Aussies just not with the touch that they had yesterday afternoon. Yesterday afternoon, everything was perfect. Everything was good. Today, it's just a little bit off. And for me, that is just mental. That's nerves. That's excitement, perhaps. A bit of stress, just like that. Yesterday, that would have been a perfect pass. That was
there we go.
A great comeback from Zach. Make something out of that play.
It's just what they need at that moment. A little frustration on the faces, particularly of Cole Durant in one of those previous shots. And Zach sees the open court there, just goes short, finds the space. And if they can just put together a couple of points now, that's exactly what they're going to need, because they're 4 behind and they trail by a set to love. And there it is. Nice work at the net from Durant.
Beautiful block. He jumped into the angle there on Drost, taking out his big power hit. So the players are going to sit down now in a sec. See there, went to the left, to the right, and Cole Durant all over. Gave him a little bit of a, yeah, I gotcha. But I don't think Drost is too fussed on that. Every now and again, it's normal for big hitters to be blocked, because that is their strength. That's what the blockers are looking for. He's now thinking.
Not much talking there, and you're right, Kerry. A little bit of water, just going over it in their mind. They'll have a little chat now, and what can they say to each other in a time like this? They're a set down, and they're also, a bunch of points behind in the second set.
Sometimes if there is strategy to be discussed, they will do that, but I think they know what their strategies are. They know what they need to do, and at this point it's a matter of just maybe calming, breathing, getting focused. And when you're out there in that square, the square on your side, the big rectangle of the court, you have to focus, and you don't get a chance to relax your mind. But in the timeout, sometimes no talking is fine. You just need to relax so you can get back out there and switch back on.
Well, at the moment, the Americans have shown no signs of allowing these Australian boys to get back into it. And there they go again with a very dominant play to get that buffer out to 4 points. As I was saying, Kerry, they don't show any signs of thinking they'll give the Australians a little window. So the Aussies are going to have to find a way.
Yep, they certainly are. And that's their way.
Yeah, that's a good way.
That is their way. So that's what they rely on, that play. They've got to fire themselves up here. Sometimes you come in with a bit of a negative down thought, but you've got to keep those thoughts positive. Like now, that's a good break for them. So they didn't have to do much except get a good tough serve on that. And they've got to use that break. Make use of it.
So it is a semi-final FIVB World Tour here, right in the middle of Shepparton in country Victoria, town of 50,000 people, and beach volleyball has been brought here, and the Aussies love that. Now they're back to within a point. That was the little bunch of points they've just talked about, getting those back. And like we saw, it's a very similar story to the first set, where they got a little bit behind, got it up, and around about this part of the set too, but weren't able to go on with it. That's not bad.
Just out, yeah. Good risk by Schubert, keeping the pressure on. Need to make sure they side out here. Yeah, it was 14 all, I think, in the first set when they switched sides, so it's around about the same. The Americans keep going to Zach Schubert.
There is Schubert. He finds the space. when he wants to, he can nail it.
Yeah, over the top it looked like the blocker. Let's have a look on the replay. Yeah, over the top, finds the middle. Just too hard for the Americans, for Frischmann to play on defense. Big bang. Yeah. Such aggression, such confidence from the Americans. Just playing it simple, up and down. Solid foundation game. Talking strategy. Their strategy's got to be a lot different in defence than the Aussie boys, because they've got to block perhaps the second play or the third play.
Now things will begin to just tighten up in their minds, the Australians, as they realise that this set is starting to get towards the end, but that point there goes their way, and it's 14-15 they trail. They also trail 1-0 in this semi-final. It is not beyond them. It is still a chance, and it's going to be a big serve from Schubert. Up he goes. Gets a touch on the net there from the ball. The Americans work it around, jousting at the net this time. What can they do? This is a really important point, you feel it, and the Americans, well, they take it.
Yes, Cole Duran, he touched it on the block. He picked it up quickly, and then he was waiting for Zach. Zach just stood there. He picked it up there. Oh, Zach couldn't get there. Cole was in the way. So great jousting at the net from Drost. And he holds the serve now. Let's see what he does. Goes a little bit shorter on Zach Schubert.
Americans now on the back foot, but they managed to salvage it and turn it into attack. Here's Durant.
Massive bang, Cole Durant there. Swings it to the left side of him. He did a great defensive up. Frischmann held that ball from the backcourt. That was a beautiful dig there. Zach Schubert with the perfect set. Just too much power.
And 15-16, they serve again, the Australians. Trying to stay alive in this match. They can't get the point on that occasion, though.
Chase Frischmann just making it look so easy. Pass set. I'll just roll it to the corner, run back to the baseline. He's got the energy just to run back to the baseline. His partner's having to be a lot more physical in this game, but Frischmann just doing his job in defence. And there's his partner doing it for him in the block. So the Americans just too strong and consistent. The Aussie boys losing their way a little bit. 3 points at this part of the set is going to be tough to bring back. The Americans just haven't really dropped their focus at all in this set.
So Frischmann, he serves for the Americans. They can see the finish line. Can they finish it off? The Australians will be hoping they cannot. And that ball lands in for the Americans. Another point to them. 19-15. 2 points away from wrapping this semi-final up and getting through to the gold medal match this afternoon.
Impressive defence. Chase Frischmann.
Desperation times, and another point for the Americans. A whole bunch of match points.
Aussie boys giving that up on another error, so really being disappointed with themselves. But the Americans, match point, Steve. Their first gold medal match on an FIVB World Tour. They won't be thinking of that yet. To get through this point still.
They'll fight though, the Aussies. They won't give up on this point easily. And there's a point back to them, so they salvage one. Very little room for error though for the Australians. Still staring down the barrel. 4 match points to the Americans. Schubert serves. The Americans now control the point. The Australians desperate. Stays alive, but not alive enough. Hits the net, and that's it. The match is over, and the Americans take it 21-16. 2 sets to love. 21-19 the first set. A very impressive performance from the Americans. Disappointment for the Australians.
Yeah, absolutely. The Americans will be so pleased with themselves. They've come a long way to Australia, to the land of the koalas and the kangaroos. And they've been jumping around like a couple of kangaroos. Great effort from the American boys. Chase Frischman, James Avery Drost against the Aussies, who had such an amazing quarterfinal last night. Perhaps still a little bit tired, perhaps a little bit of nerves going down to the Americans.
And a little kiss and a wave to the camera for everybody back home there from James Avery Drost. It's he and his partner, Chase Frischman, that have done their country proud, their family proud, by making them their way to the gold medal match this afternoon. The USA have defeated Australia in this semi-final 21-19. 21-16, as Kerry Podas mentioned. The Aussie boys, well, a little bit of nerves in there and maybe just a little bit flat at times, but well, unfortunately they've let this opportunity slip, and they'll be playing off for the bronze medal.
Yeah, well, a good day's a good day, a bad day's a good lesson, and so today it's a lesson for them. They'll be able to reflect on yesterday, the matches that they had to get through to the semi-final. Today's semi-final, it's a good time to do it. You know, in this part of their career, they're just up and coming, both these players and as a team. And they'll be coming back to play off for bronze a little bit later.
Well, if there's a positive in it, it is that another Australian team are up next. It is Chris McHugh and Damien Schumann who'll take on Germany, and an opportunity to go through to the gold medal. We could have Australians in the gold medal and Australians in the bronze medal. That's the hope. Don't go away. All that's coming up next, live here from Shepparton. It's an FIVB World Tour event.